Welcome back. It's time now for a look at the day's business news. And for that, I'm joined on set by Stephen Carroll. And Stephen, we're going to start on currency markets. And in Japan, the yen just keeps getting weaker.
Yeah, it does. It reached its lowest level against the dollar in 4 years on Thursday. A dollar will now buy you over 100 Japanese yen. Now, it's been part of a trend that we've been seeing in recent months. You can see the value of the yen there, about how much of it, how much you can get for a dollar there on that chart. The falling value makes Japanese exports cheaper, of course, which is good news for Japan. In fact, the electronics manufacturer Sony mentioned in its results on Thursday that it had helped them return to profit for the first time in 4 years. So it is having a tangible effect. This is all part of a strategy by the Prime Minister Shinzo Abe, elected in December, along with the central bank. He's promised this aggressive monetary policy to try and kickstart the world's third largest economy. Part of that, it's having an effect of bringing the value of the yen down. Now, this has led to accusations that Japan is engaging in currency wars, competitively devaluing its currency to try and give it an edge over other countries. But this is a charge that Tokyo has denied.
Well, how has this just affected markets?
Well, it's been very positive on the Asian markets, or certainly rather on the Japanese markets. The Nikkei opened up over 3%. It's fallen back slightly since, just 2.65% there in the green. A negative effect, though, on South Korea's Kospi. That's because exporters there are worried that they're going to lose their edge as the value of the yen comes down. So not good news for everyone. Mixed picture on the Asian markets.
Okay, well, we head now to the UK, where finance ministers and central bankers from the G7 are meeting later this Friday.
Yeah, Britain's Chancellor George Osborne is chairing this meeting from the G7 group of industrialised economies just outside London. They're going to be meeting. They're expected to discuss measures to restore growth in the G7, particularly in terms of what central banks can do to help that. Now, they'll also be talking about bank regulation and tax avoidance, something we've been hearing a lot about recently with this talk of global tax havens. Of course, this ongoing debate about austerity will be discussed as well, and whether or not it's a good move for developed nations to keep cutting.
Well, as you say, the debate over austerity is one that's been raging for some time here in Europe. Slovenia is the latest eurozone country to bring in tax hikes and spending cuts in an effort to get its finances in order and avoid an international bailout. Kyle Brown has the details.
On Thursday, the Slovenian Prime Minister announced a series of measures intended to make big savings and resuscitate the economy.
When we talk about resuscitating the economy, we are talking about the improvement of the financial status of banks and at the same time restructuring companies and freeing them from debt. On the other hand, we're talking about improving corporate management and privatization.
The government also plans to partly privatize 15 state-run companies, including the country's second-largest bank, Nova Kreditna Banka Maribor, Telekom Slovenia, Airline Adria Airways, and Ljubljana Airport. The sell-off is part of Slovenia's plan to avoid becoming the sixth eurozone country to seek an emergency bailout after Greece, Ireland, Portugal, Spain, and Cyprus. Slovenia's problems began with its 5 state-owned banks. They have an estimated 7 billion euros of bad loans on their books. To dig its way out, the Slovenian government has also introduced a number of new taxes. And on July 1st, its 2 sales tax rates will rise from 20 to 22% and from 8.5% to 9.5%. A real estate tax will be enacted in 2014. The government will have to meet with unions to discuss cuts to public sector spending by 250 to 300 million euros. The austerity plan, which seeks to raise more than 500 million euros, will have to be approved by Slovenia's parliament and then handed to the European Commission, which is expected to discuss it this month.
8 people have been charged in New York over what could be one of the biggest bank heists in history.
Yeah, that's right. Not a bank heist as we might traditionally think of it, but this was a cybercrime operation targeting 2 Middle Eastern banks. US prosecutors say the gang broke into 2 credit card processors, allowing them access to details of prepaid MasterCards from the Bank of Muscat in Oman and the National Bank of Ras Al Khaimah in the United Arab Emirates. Now, with those details, they were able to make transactions totaling, or withdraw money totaling $45 million. At one period, over a period of 10 hours, they managed to make 36,000 withdrawals, $40 million taken in that period. Prosecutors have described this attack as being one of surgical precision.
They were the nucleus of the New York-based cell of this worldwide cybercriminal network. Their job was to cash out or withdraw millions of dollars from ATMs in and around New York City using stolen prepaid debit card numbers that were obtained through sophisticated computer hacking techniques. This group alone, the New York cell alone, netted $2.8 million of the $45 million that was stolen worldwide. This $2.8 million represents the second largest bank heist ever in New York City.
China has sent a word of warning to the European Union, calling for dialogue when it comes to trade disputes. It follows a decision by the European Commission to impact import duties on Chinese-made solar panels. European producers say China's subsidising its own panel producers to gain market share.
Sales of Chinese-made solar panels have skyrocketed in Europe. European producers say Chinese exports account for almost 80% of the European market. They also say Chinese companies have come to dominate the market with the help of government subsidies and other unfair advantages. On Wednesday, the European Commission agreed to impose punitive duties averaging more than 47%. The tariffs would affect some 100 Chinese companies. No word yet of any retaliation from the Chinese government. But on Thursday, a request that the EU rethink the tough tariff.
When handling trade friction between China and the EU, we hope both sides can maintain a cooperative spirit and properly resolve differences and disputes through constructive dialogue and negotiations.
The European solar industry has also called for calm, warning that high duties would cost Europe thousands of green jobs and billions of euros. The EU is China's largest export market and has already clashed with the country in the past. Last fall, the EU launched investigations into whether Chinese exports were unfairly subsidized. Some of the findings could come out as early as next month.
A quick look now at some of the day's companies' news, and shares in the American bookseller Barnes & Noble have jumped by 22% on Thursday after reports that Microsoft might want to buy out its joint digital venture. The Nook e-reader had been losing money as it struggled against competition from the likes of Amazon's Kindle. The website TechCrunch is reporting that Microsoft proposed a $1 billion offer to buy the hardware and software as well as its ebook library.
Boeing says it's increased the rate of production on its troubled 787 Dreamliner. No new jets have been delivered since the aircraft maker was forced to suspend flights of the model in January. Boeing is aiming to put 60 new Dreamliners in the skies by the end of this year. It comes as Air India says it's hoping to resume flights with its Dreamliners by the end of the month.
And pre-tax profit of the steelmaker ArcelorMittal fell by 26% in the first 3 months of the year compared with the same period last year. The company earned €1.2 billion in the first quarter, which was higher than had been expected. After tax and other deductions, though, the firm is expecting a loss of €265 million.
So we're going to end with YouTube, which is something internet users spend a lot of time on, but the site is now introducing channels that you'll have to pay for.
Yeah, a big change for YouTube, owned by Google, of course. They've launched 50 channels, which are subscriber-based, so you'll have to pay anything from 99 cents up to $8 a month for the content of it. Includes the likes of National Geographic Kids, Prime Zone Sports and many more as well. YouTube says this is the start of a whole range of paid channels they're going to be offering. That Sesame Street, one of the ones that are going to be expected to add to the list soon enough, puts YouTube in competition with the likes of Hulu and Netflix. It also gives Google a chance to earn money in a different way from YouTube. They bought the company in 2006 for $1.65 million. The internet giant will keep about 45% of the revenue from these subscriptions, about the same of what they get from advertising, and the rest of it goes to the channel owners.
Stephen Carroll with the Business Update. Thank you very much. Do stay tuned to France 24. Chris Moore is here with more headlines.